Okay. Okay, I believe we are live. Welcome to my studio and welcome to my channel. It is 1 minute to 10 o'clock, but if you're here, thank you for being here. Okay, so this is my first time doing the YouTube live streaming, so bear with me if we have technical difficulties. And if you can see us, if you logged on and you can see us, please comment, and so we know that it's all working. All right, so it is 10. So this is our first session for Piano Summer Camp 2021. And I'm very excited because we are going to do our recital in a different format, which is why I'm calling it a summer camp. So traditionally, we would have pretty much, the majority of the students play in one big recital, which usually lasts about 2.5 to 3 hours. So that's very long. So this year I decided to break it up into mini sessions where only a few students play each week, and we also have a group discussion, so it's more interactive. So today the topic for discussion is practice strategies. So after each performer plays, I'll be asking them about what they do in their practice sessions to make their practice more effective. Okay, Jingjing, please be quiet, okay? All right, so anyway, our first performer will be my daughter, Jingjing. Okay, it is your turn now, Jingjing. You can sit here.
No! No!
Go. Come on.
Do
You're
it.
on. You are on. You have to, you're the first performer. Go, you're on. So, tell everybody who you are.
No.
Say your name. Look at the camera. Go. Okay, just say how old you are then. And what you're gonna play. What are you gonna play?
Morning.
Okay, have a seat. Okay, go. Okay, by yourself first. Do, la, sol. Focus. Alright, go octave higher. 1, 2, and ready, go. Alright, good. And what's the name of the second song? Look at the camera.
Piano polka.
Piano polka? Alright, you go first.
Sure.
Just focus, it's okay. Octave higher. Remember to lift your hand. 1, 2, and ready, go. Try it again. Don't go fast. Alright, thank you very much. Now look at the camera because I'm going to ask people, remember, what they do when they practice. So, what do you do, Jingjing, so that you can play the piano?
Because I practice a lot.
You practice a lot. Okay, can you look at the camera and tell people, what does a lot mean? Do you do it every day? Thank you. Alright, you are done now. Okay?
Mommy, can I go and open my toy?
Yes, you can go. All right, so Jingjing gave us a tip, right? Well, she is 5 years old, and thank you for your patience. So one of the practice tip is obviously that frequency, right? So when it comes to piano practice, every day, right, is very important. So even if you only have, say, 5 to 10 minutes a day, right? At the beginner level, that's still better than doing that rather than, say, an hour, right, once a week. So the regularity, right, consistency, right, and frequency is, I think, the first tip. So absolutely every day if possible. Now the amount of time, of course, depends on the age and the level of the student. So for Jingjing, she probably only does 5 to 10 minutes a day. She's very active, so she's still learning how to sit still and concentrate and focus. Now, of course, as the student becomes older, the amount of time they spend, of course, is going to be more. And everybody is different too. Some people are able to just, devote 2-3 hours at a time, right? And some people break it up into different sections. So they may do 30 minutes a day in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon. Okay. All right. So yes. Okay. No, I am busy. Okay. All right. So our next performer is going to be Leon, and let me spotlight Leon. All yours, Leon. You are spotlighted. Okay, so can you tell us about yourself, Leon, and what you're going to play?
Hello, my name is Leon Lai. I am 6 years old. Today I will be playing Sonatini by Rick Robertson.
Wow, Leon, that was amazing. Okay, so now you get to share with us what you do in your practice sessions. Okay, so can you tell us? Oh, sorry, I want to make sure you are in the view too. Can you tell us what it means to you to practice? Like, what do you do? Do you practice every day like Jingjing does?
Yes.
Yes, I bet you do, right? And I bet you do more than 5 to 10 minutes. How much do you do? Can you tell us? Give us an idea.
4 times.
So you play your pieces 4 times every day? Very good, right? I think you probably got that number because you started when you were 4 years old, right? So for the beginners, that's usually what I tell them to do. They just started, so it's easy for them to just have something to focus on. So after
45 minutes.
Oh, 45 minutes. Okay. That's a lot, right? For a 6-year-old. Wow. I'm so impressed, right? So, but I want to just go back to what you were saying about the 4 times thing. So, for my little kids, what I usually tell them to do is they practice their assignment the number of times that equals their age. So when they were 4, they practice their assignments 4 times every day. And then when they're 5, it becomes 5 times every day. And then when they're 6, it becomes 6 times every day. So it's just based on the sheer repetition, right? And repetition is key in the beginning stages. So they may not understand too much about what they are doing, and they're not focused on perfecting everything, rhythm, dynamics, phrasing, articulation. So it's just more of a number thing. So, but of course, as they become older, then each time they practice again, they of course would need to focus on a specific element, such as what they're trying to improve. Okay, so for Leon, right, he spends a pretty significant amount of time. So he's 6 and he's doing 45 minutes a day. That is amazing, right? So he's already very disciplined, and he's developed this routine already. So tell us, Leon, in your 45 minutes, all right, what do you do? Do you just work on the one piece, or do you have several things that you work on? Several things, right? So can you give us an idea of what you do? Like in each session, what are the different things you play? Now, actually, before I would like to also show the people that are watching, right, where these pieces come from. So Leon played a piece that came from the series, which is one of my favorites for sort of beginners that already know how to read. So it's called The Spectrum, and it's by Rick Robertson, and you can get this from Piano Pronto. That's the publisher, and Jennifer Eklund, again, one of my favorite contemporary composers, is the founder and the publisher. So he played a piece from this series. So Leon, apart from this book, what else do you work on every day? Can you give us an idea? Well, you have something technique, right, to do with technique, and that comes from, do you remember your book, Dozens a Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like that one, right? What else do you have?
Piano Pronto.
Yeah, you have Piano Pronto. We talked about it. What else do you have?
Premier Piano Course.
You have the Premier Piano Course, right? And what else?
RCM book.
The RCM book. Good. Good memory. That's a lot. Keep going.
Book.
What's that?
Solo book.
Oh, the solo book. Yeah, you have a solo book. And that has more like a popular stuff, right? Like the Disney tunes and stuff. And what else? Anything else we haven't covered? Supersonics, right? Very good, because that's another very cool series, right? So today you didn't play something from Supersonics, but I know that's one of your program. What else? I think that's about it, right? Okay, so what's the tip here? It's called variety, right? Especially for the younger students, I think variety is very important. So sometimes we focus on just the one piece, especially, of course, right before the recital, everybody practices their recital piece the most. But again, for the younger kids, if they only have the one thing to work on, they tend to get bored. So I like to give them variety, and I like to give them different materials. So not just all come from the same publisher. Of course, I have my favorites, but variety, I think, is key. So to show them that music really can be very diverse. Okay, all right, Leon, you've done a great job. Okay, so you can go and relax now. So we're gonna have our next performer. Okay, all right, so let me highlight the next performer and Leon. Okay, so our next performer is Alicia. So Alicia, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Alicia Siripakti, and today I'll be playing Shadowfall by, I believe, Jennifer Eklund.
Wow, thank you, Alicia. All right, so as far as performance goes, that was amazing. That was super, super polished, right? You play so well. And look at you today. You are so beautiful. I love your hair and your dress, the whole package. Your room is gorgeous. It's like a perfect picture. Thank you so much. Okay, so now it's your turn. Tell us what practice means to you and what you do in your regular practice sessions.
So when I practice, normally I would practice for around like, I would say 45 minutes also. And I wouldn't say I have several pieces to work on, but it's not just one.
Obviously, right? Okay,
Yes.
good. All right, so it's very similar to what Leon already told us, right? Is there anything else you could share with the people that are watching? Because our goal today is to give people as many different tips as possible, right? Um, I noticed today, especially, right, and something we've been working on a lot, right? So when you are a beginner, right, you sort of just worry about what notes to play, right? You figure out, okay, this is a C, this is a D, and this is a quarter note, this is a half note. So those are very basics, but they are important, right? And they're the foundation. Now you are already beyond that, right? So can you tell me what are some of the things I've told you to focus on, especially to do with this piece?
Okay. With this piece, he told me like some, not so many tips ago. He told me that sometimes it's okay to take it slow. And
That's a good word. That's a
yeah,
good word, right? So that's something new, right? We haven't heard today. And I think I've told all of you this, right? Slow, 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 right? Slow practice. So it doesn't matter how fast the piece is supposed to go, right? We practice slowly to clean up, right, our little imperfections. At first, we are all slow anyway, right, because we don't know how to play. And then we become better, and then the piece becomes faster, right? Give me a second, please. Excuse me. So we were saying, right, at first we are all slow, right? So everybody is doing that anyway. But as we sort of become more familiar with the piece, we inevitably get faster and faster and faster. And then we forget that the reason we were able to become better in the beginning was because we did it slowly, right? So going back to the slow practice after we can already play the piece very fluently is so crucial, right? And I've used this word before. I call slow practice the magic pill, right? It can cure just about any problem when it comes to piano technique, right? And piano playing. So thank you for giving us that word just now, Alicia. So very good. Anything else?
and overall, when you take it slow, just, well, this is more on that topic. Just don't speed through the piece, please. Because sometimes you can have some minor little mess ups when you do go a little too fast.
Okay, so when you play too fast, it's like this car, right, that goes downhill. It's just gonna eventually crash, right? So you have to put on the brake. You have to keep reminding yourself to go slow. All right, that's all very good. I want you to help us find more tips, okay? Because earlier I was saying I noticed something about your playing that I really liked, right? It wasn't just that you play all the notes right, that you had all the right rhythm and all that, but there were two things specifically that I liked. One is to do with your wrist. Can you tell us what you were doing?
I guess I was, oh, wait a minute. It's the movement, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So after Alicia learned all the notes in that piece, she already memorized the notes. So I asked her to think about, right, other aspects. So do you remember dynamics? Right, so that we don't just play all the notes the same. So we try to bring out certain notes. I think in your piece, right, remember it was kind of repetitive, right, but we bring out certain notes, right here, right. So in the music itself, actually, this is a good time for us to look at the music together. So this is the piece that she played by Jennifer Ackland, and the series is called Spotlight Solos Plus. If anybody wants to go to her website and purchase the music. So the piece really didn't give her a lot of clues as to what to do. And this is very common, of course. So it just says mezzo piano pretty much for this whole entire page. In the beginning is piano. So not very much, right? But of course, as a performer, we don't only do what we see. We very often have to add more, right? So we focused on dynamics, right? And bringing out different notes in that right hand, so that we are not emphasizing just the B, but rather the notes that changed. So dynamic was one, right, thing. So the tip basically here is that we focus on other aspects. So with each practice, we want to say, okay, I have my notes down, I have my rhythm correct, what else can I do, right? So you find something specific to work on. So dynamic was definitely one of them, right? And also just focusing on technique, right? So we are not just going through the motion, right? We focus on flexibility, using our arms, using our wrist, right? So it takes a conscious effort at first, right? Like, am I as relaxed, as comfortable as I can be? And am I utilizing every part of me, right? Not just my fingertips, but my wrist, right? My arms and my body, right? And at first, that takes a conscious effort, right? So unless you're saying, okay, I'm going to focus on thinking about that, sometimes we forget, right? Of course, when you become very advanced, it all becomes natural. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You're just going to do it automatically. But in the beginning, right, for students, it is something they have to consciously think about. So when you practice, sometimes you can just go think about that. You can say, I'm going to play this piece one more time, right? And this particular time, that is my main focus. So it's focus oriented or goal oriented. You have a specific goal. You have a specific aspect about piano playing that you want to work on, rather than just saying, I'm just going to play all the notes all over again. Okay? All right, so thank you, Alicia. You gave us some very good tips. So you can now relax, right? And we are going to have our next performer.
Thank you.
All right, we have our next performer of the day, and it is Mr. Cody Lee.
Woo!
So I'm always amazed that Cody can join us, and I'm super grateful, right, that he spends time with us, because he's a superstar, right? He's world famous. And now that things are opening up, he has a lot of engagements. He has a lot of concerts he's being invited to do, and starting, I think it already started, right? He's doing a lot of live performances already. So he still spends time with the studio and participates in our activities. So thank you very much, Cody.
You're welcome.
Well, would you like to tell us what you're playing today?
My name is Cody Lee, and today I'm going to play the third movement of Mozart.
Thank you. Thank you, Cody. All right, so it's your turn now to tell us. Right? Okay, so Cody, can you tell us what you do when you practice piano?
Every day.
You do it every day. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. And what else? What are some of the things that you do? Now, of course, you all know that Cody does not see, so the way he learns any piece of music is by
Oh
ear.
my gosh.
So he learns everything by ear, and this particular piece was very challenging because it's very long, right? But actually, for Cody, it is not a problem because his memory is phenomenal. So length is not an issue for him. But there's a lot of leaps, right? And there's a lot of technical passages. So tell us, Cody, how do you practice this opening material? So the way he has learned this piece is that every line of music, and there's, how long is this piece? This piece is 241, 2, 3, 4, 5, 245 measures, right?
What the
So,
heck?
yeah. So the way he learned it was that I would, in the beginning, right, play every line for him, and then he would play it back, and he would memorize that line in an instance, and then we do the next line, and he would play it, and he would memorize it, and so on and so forth, right?
Oh
So
my
then
gosh.
after the lesson, what do you do? After our lesson is over, you practice every day, you've told us, and so what do you do to actually play the piece? Do you try to put it together, right?
I
And
took me over the lesson.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
do you play fast right away or slowly first?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
did it slow.
Yes, and also I think there's one thing we have not mentioned, right? Which is what I was trying to do. So we do it slow, right? Alicia already gave us that tip. Do you practice just one hand sometimes, Cody?
Heck yeah.
Yes, right. Especially when we first learn the material, right? Sometimes I would play just the right hand because otherwise sometimes the texture is too complex. So sometimes I would only play the right hand and then he would play, of course, just the right hand. So that's the tip right here, right? It's called hands separate. Now, some of these things, of course, are very obvious, especially for a student that's very advanced, right? They would already know that. But sometimes we forget, right? So that's the whole point of today's session is that I want to remind people, right? And if you already know, excellent, good for you, right? But if not, hopefully you now know that hand separate practice is super, super duper important, isn't it?
Heck
Right?
yeah.
So only practice a particular hand, especially, right, if something is very technical, like that opening material. Okay? And also, because the piece was very long, Cody, do you remember? Sometimes we don't have time to work on the whole entire piece. So what would we do? We would just work on what?
I work on. I work on. I work on that.
Yeah, so if we couldn't do the whole entire piece in one session, sometimes we would just focus on the problem part, right? So, for example, that middle section, remember how it went to this minor chord? Remember that part, right?
What the heck?
So sometimes we only work on the difficult part or the part that's newer, so we break it up, right? So that's another tip. So in other words, in your practice session, you don't always have to practice the whole entire piece, especially if the piece is very long. It is sometimes more effective if you just take out one little part of it, right? Like a particular section, in this case, kind of like the development, right, where things become minor. So you focus on just the part that's newer or more difficult. and you do only that part. So you focus your attention on just that part. Okay? And we certainly do that together, don't we, Cody?
Woo, heck yeah.
Very good. Right. Anything else you can tell us before I open it up to the rest of the studio so everybody can contribute what they do in their practice sessions? Is there anything else you can tell us, Cody? Oh, you know what? I thought of one other tip that you and I do together. So we don't do it so much anymore, but in the beginning, right? Do you remember, Cody? We recorded pretty much every single one of your lessons.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And they would be already on my Facebook page. So the reason we were doing that, and this was before Cody became famous, right? But we were already doing it anyway. So I would record every single one of his lesson. So it wasn't really so much for other people to see, but it was for Cody himself to review, right? Because he cannot see the music, he has to rely everything by ear. So we would record the sessions so that he could listen back to the sessions, and that's kind of what helps him to practice. Do you remember that, Cody?
Heck yeah.
Right? And then of course he became super duper famous, right? So and also his time is limited now with his practice because he has such a performance schedule.
Oh my
Anyway, so that is a tip. In other words, record yourself.
Record yourself.
Yes, record yourself and listen back to yourself, right? That can make your practice super effective because sometimes we are involved so much with reading the notes, figuring out what note it is. We just can't seem to focus on other things, right? But record yourself and watch your own videos, right? And listen to yourself. Then you can go, oh, wow, I did not know I was playing like that. It can be quite a revelation because we sometimes, like I said, don't realize we're playing as fast as we do. And that has happened to me too. Sometimes I listen to myself and I go, gee, I didn't think I played that fast, but it sounded much faster than I thought, right? So speed, right? But also more, especially for a lot of students, the movements, sometimes, or the technique. Sometimes you don't realize, gee, my wrist is actually so low, right? It's almost touching the sideboard. I call this the hot lava. Do not touch the hot lava. By watching yourself, you can see your own technical deficiencies, right? That you didn't realize before, okay? So definitely recording is a huge tip, all right? Okay, so anyway, I want to open up. We have a little bit of time left to the rest of the studio so other people can give us their tips, okay? All right, so thank you so much, Cody, but stay with us because we still, the session is not ended yet.
Ooh. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so now let me see who has some ideas to give us. Okay, so now the floor is open to the rest of the studio. We have quite a few people here with us. Does anybody, so raise your hand, right? Unmute yourself. I guess raise your hand first so I don't have everybody speaking at the same time. Who wants to give us some more practice tips that have not been covered today? Anybody have other strategies that they can think of that we have not talked about? I guess you can mute yourself so I can see you because there's quite a few people. If you raise your hand, I may not see you. Anybody? Come on, you must all have some ideas. I see Leon, I see Alicia. You guys have talked. Anne is there. Do you have anything to add, Anne? Anne is a very good performer. She's a very good student, so she must have a lot of tips for us. Are you there, Anne? I see Wayne. Hi, Wayne. Long time no see. Thank you for joining us. Do you have anything you want to add? Do you know how to unmute yourself?
Um,
Oh, Anne is on now. Okay, let's have Anne go first, okay? So, all right, let me spotlight you, Anne. So, Anne, like I said, I know you also practice a lot, right? You are a very good student. You've accomplished a lot this last year. And of course, we know that you did a competition where you got third place, right, in the Inland Empire Piano Festival, which is a big event. So tell us some of the things that have not been covered. Or if you don't remember, you can just repeat them. It doesn't matter.
I always use the metronome.
That's a good tip. Thank you. Yep. That has not been mentioned today. Yep.
So use the metronome, practice slowly, and like do every line at a time.
So we were talking about little bit at a time, right? So slowly has been mentioned, doing only small sections at a time that we talked about sort of with Cody. But metronome, that's new. Thank you. Yep. What? Anything else?
I would say that you have to like practice all the wrong things. So like if you don't get the hang of it, separate hands, use one hand at a time, and then
Yep.
put it all
Separate hands. That's
together.
very, very important. So we mentioned that with Cody earlier too. Good. Okay, so I want to perhaps just sort of maybe some people know this and some people don't. So you were saying do the hard part, right?
Yeah.
So yes, sometimes we know a particular section is difficult, so we practice that section and then we get it right, right? We're so happy about it. So if you only get it right one time, do you think that's enough?
No, you have, if you get it right one time, you have to do it again and again until you get it right every time.
Thank you. That is the tip, right? In other words, after you have spent a lot of time on a difficult section, you finally get it. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy. I can do something else now, right? But Anne just told us that's not good enough because you may have just been lucky that time, right? So I always say 3 times perfect in a row, right? That's usually the test. So once you figure something difficult out, you have to do it again, right? To see if you still can do it that second time in a row. And then that's still not enough, at least 3. Yep. And said again and again and again. Yeah, as many times as you can stand it, obviously, but at least 3. If you can do 3 times right in a row, then that's usually a good test that you really truly got it. That you didn't just get lucky that one time. Okay? So that's a good tip, Anne. Anything else?
Practice a lot.
Practice a lot, right? So of course that's the time commitment, right? Which Leon sort of gave us earlier. He does 45 minutes for a 6-year-old. So you guys that are 12 years old should do more, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, N is not 12, but this is a random number, right? Okay. All right. So let me see if other people have some tips. Okay. So thank you for sharing your tips, and those are very good tips. Okay. So now we are going to go back to Wayne. Hi, Wayne. Do you have anything to add?
Lost reception.
I can see
Can you
you.
hear?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good to see you, Wayne.
Yeah, we're driving, so I might lose reception, but I just agree with everything everybody said about hands separately and then together and then slow practice and then using the metronome, starting out slow and then gradually speeding up with the metronome and action. You know, sometimes play more focus, right hand, you know, the left hand more, all the stuff.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's awesome you're able to join us even though you're driving. Again, that shows some commitment. Right? You are very dedicated. I know that, right? I always say Wayne is my longest standing adult student. He's been with us for a very long time now. So it's very good to see you. Okay. Anything else? Actually, I wrote a list down, right? So I'm trying to see if some things have not been covered. With Cody earlier, right? I think one thing we can all learn is to see if we can play with our eyes closed, because that's how Cody plays, right? So of course it's not going to be something that you'll do in an actual performance, but sometimes, right, just to see if you truly know the geography of the keyboard, you can try blindfold yourself, and then you'll realize how incredibly hard it is, right, to get around the keyboard. So try it. I would say, it's something that you could do just to see what it feels like, right? So blindfold yourself. So you truly need to use your ears. Now, sometimes that is not just to see if you can get around, right? Obviously, getting around without seeing where the keys are is very difficult. But by closing your eyes or blindfolding yourself, you will rely on your ears more. So then you can listen to your quality of sound. So you can focus on your tone production, because all your other senses are not available now, right? So you use your ears so you can truly listen. Am I truly pianissimo? Can I be even more quieter? Earlier, Cody's piece, he ended so musically, right? That ending, right, requires just so much sensitivity and control, right? Exactly how quiet that chord can be, right? And the placement of it, right? So, yeah, so if you blindfold yourself, just even for a small section, right, you can really focus on using your ears and improve your sound production, right? Improve your tone quality. So that was one of the tips that I had written down on my little list. All right, let's see who else. I know we are going a little over time already, but I want to let everybody have a chance to speak. So I see Piers joining us right now. So it's the floor is yours, Piers. Can you tell us some things that you do in your practice session?
Sometimes if I'm just like learning a new piece and I'm kind of like struggling in it, I just practice like the part I'm struggling with like multiple times. Okay. And then also whenever I'm just playing, I don't let anything distract me. Otherwise, that might cause me to like mess up or something.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Right. So I think one of the tip he gave, what he's saying is, turn off all distractions. Right. Turn off
Yes.
the TV, obviously. Right. If it's on, just find a specific time where the rest of the house can be quiet, right? So find environment, in other words, your practice environment, right? Are there distractions, right? Are there extra noises that you don't want that may distract you? Now, some people have no choice, right? They may have siblings that are younger and there's just no way around it. But if possible, right, think about practice environment. What environment will promote the most effective practice? So that's a very good tip. Thank you, Piers. Okay. I also want to just touch on this idea of practicing just the difficult part first. So one of the strategy is what I call pick a random spot, right? So don't just always practice from the beginning of the piece or even a particular section. Sometimes it can be very useful to see, just pick a random number, say measure 14 or measure 28 or measure 133. So can I just go from that measure? Now, I ask the student to do that quite often, and sometimes it's very difficult for them because they're used to always going from the beginning of something, right? Whether it's a page or a section. So being able to do it just from a random spot, that is definitely a tip. I think is quite often forgotten. Okay, and another thing about the random thing is practice backwards. So that has not been mentioned before. So especially closer to the performance, once you have a piece learned, sometimes it's useful to go, okay, can I just go backwards? In other words, play the last measure. Okay, I can play that measure. Play the second to the last measure, going into the last measure. This is particularly a good tip for consolidating your memory, because sometimes, especially if the piece is long, we tend to be very focused in the beginning, and as the piece progresses, our memory starts to get foggy, and then we fall apart, right? And we can't finish the piece. So practicing backwards, right? Do the last measure, and then add one measure each time until you go back to measure number 1. Now, if the piece is super duper long, that might take forever, right? So you might not do the one measure at a time. You might do the whole line instead. So you go, okay, I'm just gonna play the last line of this piece, and then I'm gonna go back to the second to the last line, and I'm going to do the last 2 lines, and then go backwards that way. Okay. All right. So thank you, Piers. Now let me see who else has not talked, and I would like them to give us some ideas. Eddie, I see you in the room. Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, so it's your turn now. Do you have anything to add?
One thing that I noticed is once you master a song, I guess never play it from or never practice it from memory. So, to avoid mistakes and stuff.
That's a great tip, right? That's so important. I can't believe nobody has mentioned it. In other words, even after you think you have memorized your piece, right? You do not practice it from memory. You do not count on your memory. What you do is what she just told us. You still practice with the music. Yep, that's a super important tip because our memory fades, right? So in order to remember what we already know, we have to reinforce it, and therefore practicing with the score, right? All the time. Practice with the music so you can be reminded not just what the notes are, which most people do remember, but what are you going to do about those notes, right? What are the dynamics? What are the articulations? Any other markings that are on the score that you may have somehow forgotten, right? Because usually we memorize the notes and that's it, but we don't remember other things. So that's a great tip. Thank you, Eddie. Anything else?
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, just that I agree with like
Okay,
everything.
well, I
everyone
can think of one thing that has motivated you in particular. Eddie is a frequent performer now at Gourmet Italia, aren't you? She's been doing it for like years.
I'm not.
And when she started, right, she was nervous, but now she is very seasoned, right? So that's a practice strategy, is practice performing, right? Because sometimes we can be all just, piano is a very lonely activity, right? We spend the majority of the time by ourselves practicing. It's not like sports where you get to interact with people a lot. So practice performing, right? That will motivate you to practice more because you have a goal, right? So because she knows she has to go and play at the restaurant every so often, she's very motivated to, because she wants to do well, right? Obviously, she does do very well, right? So she has a goal, right? So give yourself a goal, right? Now, if you're not ready to perform, right, professionally, well, you can still have a goal playing for your family, right, for your friends, for your brothers and sisters, for your mommy and daddy, right? So have a goal, and of course our recitals, right? That's a big goal, right? So have a goal so that you know what you're working towards. And deadline, right? That's another thing. Because you have a goal, you have a deadline. Now we all work better when we have a deadline, don't we? Right? I think it's just human nature. When we have a deadline, we know it has to be done. So that's something very important, which is why, right? Piano exams, piano tests, right? That's kind of the main purpose. Is not to receive the score, right? Which is just a number. And ultimately, it's a piece of paper, right? You get a certificate. Those are just icings on the cake. The main thing, these piano assessments, right, whatever you call it, exams or tests, they give us a deadline, right? And because we have a deadline, we get things done, right? So that's a very important strategy. Okay, all right, so is there anything else? Let me see, who else is in the room that has not spoken? Did I miss anybody yet? I think I've covered. Oh, here we have Sachin. He's in the room too. Do you want to tell us what you do, Sachin? Are you there? I'm trying to look at the list of participants. Yeah, I think I have everybody here, but Sachin is in the room, but I don't know if he's still, because our session is going a little longer than I planned. So I do appreciate your patience. Are you there, Sachin? Do you want to share with us what you do? Let me see if he's going to be on. Okay, well, while we wait for Sachin, right, to come back, if maybe he's left the room. Sachin is only 5. He's very young. But he's very good, I tell you. He works very, very hard. Okay, so, here he is. Here's Sachin and his sister. All right, so Sachin, do you want to tell us what you do when you practice the piano? I think you might have to get closer to the camera. Because he's gonna play, right? Maybe in future sessions. So what do you do? Because you are so good. Every time he plays, my jaws just drop. Like, how can a 5-year-old, same age as my daughter, right, play as good? So you must do a lot of work.
Every day.
He does it every day too, right? So that was tip number 1, remember? Okay, and
Wow.
what else do you do?
Use the metronome.
He uses the metronome. Good. So Eddie also mentioned that. Yeah.
Use
the hard parts first.
Do the hard parts first. Thank you. Right. Okay. So of course, some of these tips are just so tried and true, right? So you have heard several students mentioning them already. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go down my list, and then we're gonna have to end because it's going a little longer already. I do appreciate whoever is still watching. Thank you for joining us. So repetition, right? Do it again and again and again. Not just one time, right? 3 times correct, right? To prove that you truly got it, that you didn't just get lucky. Do it every day, right? Now, for some people, not just every day, but same time every day could help. So make it a routine. It's like I always brush my teeth, right? So in the morning, right? So I always practice my piano in the morning. Now, if morning is not a good time for you, it could be the afternoon or whatever, but could be useful for some people, right? So not every single tip will apply to everybody, but I do just want to mention them in case they apply to you, okay? So make it a routine. Find the same time every day. Hands separately, we talked about it. Slowly, use metronome. Goal-oriented, like focus on rhythm, focus on pedaling, maybe focus on dynamics, focus on flexibility, right? Using your body. Do small sections, we've talked about it. Start at random place, not just always the beginning. Oh, this is a good one, right? Some people may think, I just don't have 30 minutes in my day, right? So it doesn't have to be a big chunk of time. It could be little chunks of time but added together. That can be also very effective. So maybe 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening. So it doesn't have to be one huge chunk. Practice the most difficult things first. Practice the newest things first. Oh yeah, that sort of has not been mentioned. In other words, don't just start your practice session playing something you're already very good at. Right? Sometimes that's very tempting. We all like to play the things we already know. But no, practice the hard things first. When you first sit down, you're the most focused. Work on the hard things first. And then you can reward yourself by playing what you're good at after, okay? After you've worked on the hard stuff. Okay, this is another one that nobody has mentioned. Use tools. Get a pencil out, get an eraser out, right? Write things down as you practice. So if you realize you forgot a sharp, draw the sharp. So the next time you're not gonna miss the sharp, right? If you realize you forgot to play this part softer or louder, or you forgot to use the pedal, write it down, okay? And you may change your mind, right? Your interpretation may change. So use an eraser, right? Erase what you would like to change. So use your tools. Recording yourself, we talked about that. Don't rely on your memory. Still follow the score even after you've practiced it. Practice backwards. Okay, we've talked about this. Giving ourselves a deadline. Practice performing. Giving yourself a goal. Okay, so I haven't mentioned this one, right? Or nobody has mentioned this one. It's called silent practice. So sometimes we are not near our piano, right? We may be sitting in the car, driving, or being a passenger. You can still practice. You can visualize your music, right? And just practice in your head. That's called silent practice. So you don't need to really always sit in front of the piano. Of course, eventually you must sit in front of the piano and physically do it. But use the time, right, that you are not next to the piano wisely by still thinking about the geography of the keyboard, where every notes are, thinking about the score, how much do you know it, right? Especially when you think you have memorized the piece, you can play it through in your head. That's called silent practice. Okay, so another thing I wrote down is have a practice buddy. Sometimes that could help if there are siblings in the same household, right? You guys can sort of practice together, right? Or challenge, give each other a challenge. So you can go, okay, well, I've done my 30 minutes. How about you? Right? So get a practice buddy, right? Mommies and like Helen and Leon, you guys can do that, right? So mommy go 30 minutes and go, Leon, it's your turn now. All right? Or if you have brothers, you can do that. And last, I guess 2 more things. Variety we talked about, right? Variety of repertoire. Reward, right? Give yourself a little reward after some hard work, okay? So I think sometimes, right, that could work, especially for the younger students, right? Give them a little reward for a job well done, right? Now, ultimately, though, our biggest reward is the music. of course, right? Nothing beats being able to play a piece of music very beautifully, right? And that sense of satisfaction, right? That sense of accomplishment, that I worked so hard on this piece. Now I can create this beautiful work of art, right? In sound. So the music itself is ultimately the biggest reward. All right, so we are already at 11 o'clock. I can't believe it. I planned on only having this in 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So today we did go over time. I shall try to time a little bit better next time. But I do appreciate all of your patience. So let's see if we can get a gallery view. So thank you everybody for coming here today, being part of our first piano camp. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the discussions and of course listening to all the performers. And if you have not signed up to play in future sessions, do let me know. As you can see, we only have a few people play each session, and we do this every week for the rest of the summer, so that it's not just everybody playing, but we talk about different aspects of playing the piano. Okay, all right, so bye bye now. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Bye. Hope you all had fun and have a great weekend. Okay? Bye.